Welcome to the On the Road Sports Talk Show, everyone. Today, December 14th, 2021, I have some of the hottest sports stories to break down in detail here and get you guys all the information we know. A lot of COVID cases across multiple leagues to discuss. I'll bring you all that and more coming up. Let's start right here in Cleveland, Ohio, where the Browns announced this morning that they had a COVID outbreak, resulting in 8 players being placed on the COVID reserve list. Of those 8 players, there were quite a few notable names for the Browns, including 2 players off their starting O-line, Wyatt Teller, the guard, and the left tackle Jedrick Wills, which is going to further weaken a line that already lost right tackle Jack Conklin for the season against the Ravens 2 games back. Additionally, the receiving corps took a hit as tight end Austin Hooper as well as wide receiver Jarvis Landry were put on the list. The tight end situation is kind of up in the air for the Browns as David Njoku was already on the COVID reserve list. They're hoping that he will possibly get activated before Saturday as they're actually playing the Las Vegas Raiders in part of that Saturday doubleheader. Of those 8 players put on the COVID reserve list for Cleveland, 2 more notable names are defensive end Takk McKinley, who actually has been a pretty serviceable player for the Browns on defense, and then JoJo Natson, the return man, who he made a heads-up play last week, and you never want to lose a player like your return guy. Plays a pretty vital role for the team. Interestingly enough, Odell Beckham Jr., now of the Los Angeles Rams, was also placed on the COVID reserve list for their team today. Just got done playing the Arizona Cardinals yesterday. He caught a touchdown on about a 3-yard slant from Matthew Stafford, and just today was put on the list. But we're going to discuss a little more Odell Beckham Jr. and Browns here in a little bit. On the NBA front, Steph Curry broke the all-time three-point record with Ray Allen in attendance. Reggie Miller, of course, was calling the game. His father, his mother, I think LeBron even flew out there to watch him break the record in Madison Square Garden. It was an awesome moment. I've never been the biggest Steph Curry guy, but still always special to witness history, and I don't think his record will be touched by the time he retires from the NBA. Now, this next NBA story goes back to the COVID outbreaks that we're seeing across sports here, and a bit of an interesting comparison here as the Brooklyn Nets have lost many players now to the COVID reserve list, including today James Harden and Bruce Brown were the latest couple of notable names. Kevin Durant was one of the active players for the Nets tonight, and they had 8 active players, which is the minimum in order to be able to play in a game for an NBA team, and they went ahead and played. Now, the reason I bring this up is because the Chicago Bulls actually had their next 2 games postponed with 8 active players. So it's kind of interesting that one team played with 8 active and the other team got their next 2 games postponed because of only having 8 active. So it raises some questions as to why that happened for one team and it didn't happen for the other. Some of it might be the last second nature, quite honestly, of the Nets situation. The Harden and Bruce Brown news broke only about, I'd say, an hour and a half before tip-off. So it could have just been a last second thing, but it is interesting to me that the Bulls got their next 2 games postponed for having only 8 active players, again, the minimum, and the Nets went ahead and played with 8 active players. Some of the names on the Bulls COVID reserve list right now include Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Derrick Jones Jr., Kobe White, even Stanley Johnson, who they just recently signed. He wasn't even able to go because he got put on the list almost immediately. So the Bulls in some major COVID issues right now, as is a lot of the NBA. And as I already mentioned, the NFL is going through it right now too. The Bulls' two opponents in their next two games that got postponed are the Detroit Pistons, which was supposed to take place tonight, and then the Toronto Raptors in that second game. The OBJ and Browns feud just continues to go on and on Twitter. Not OBJ himself, but Justin Jefferson, the Vikings wide receiver, took to Twitter to throw some subtle jabs. It appeared at Baker Mayfield after OBJ caught a touchdown in the Cardinals-Rams game. I feel like this issue is not as black and white as a lot of people treat it. I think a lot of it actually falls on Stefanski's play calling. If you look at Stephon Diggs, when he got unhappy in Minnesota, when Stefanski took over, very similar to the OBJ situation. And we all know Diggs went to Buffalo to a better fit, and it worked out. He's great. I mean, we all know Stephon Diggs, what he does now. And OBJ, he's caught 3 touchdowns now. It's awesome. But at the same time, I just want to point out, he caught this last touchdown. I'd have to go back and look at the other two, but this last one was a 3-yard slant. I don't think we can say that Baker Mayfield can't throw a 3-yard slant. It's all about the play call. Obviously, Baker could throw that ball if he was put in that position. It's just those calls were not being made. The Browns are a run-first team. We know that. The Rams are not. Cooper Kupp is there to take some pressure off of OBJ as well. Even Van Jefferson's doing well. There's a lot more dangerous targets on the Rams than there are the Browns. That's the reality of it. But the fact that OBJ catches a 3-yard slant touchdown, to me, it's nothing negative about Baker. If you want to pretend that Baker couldn't throw a 3-yard slant, then go ahead, do that. But it's not true. It's an interesting thing. I think we need to let it die already. It's over, but Justin Jefferson, for whatever reason, wants to bring it back up. The same Justin Jefferson who, what did his team muster against the Browns? 7 points? 7 points? They lost 14-7. Yeah, not very impressive. So they lost to the Browns. Vikings lost to the Lions too. Not to throw some jabs of my own, but I feel like Jefferson and the Vikings have their own issues to figure out right now. Kirk Cousins, if he's better than Mayfield, it is not by a lot either. I'm going to throw that out there. Keep in mind, I'm not even a Browns fan, so this is not one-sided here by me. I'm just calling it like I see it. I think there were a lot of issues that led to OBJ not working out in Cleveland, but you have to recognize it was a mix of issues. It was some play calling. Yeah, Baker, didn't get him the ball sometimes as well. And sometimes OBJ dropped it. I'd say there are at least 3 issues there. And you got to recognize that this is a multi-level problem that resulted in OBJ leaving Cleveland. So you don't want to put it all on Baker. You don't want to put it all on OBJ. And you don't want to put it all on Stefanski. But when I see people saying, oh, man, like Baker, what are you doing? OBJ, 3 touchdowns since he's gone to the Rams. And the Browns, I think, have thrown 2 touchdowns to wide receivers or something like that. Saw the statistic about that since OBJ left. That's not the Browns' offense. The Browns' offense is run first. And if you're throwing a touchdown, 9 times out of 10, it's probably to a tight end. And that's exactly why OBJ didn't work out. He doesn't fit into that. It's not what he is, and I wish him all the success in LA. I think it's exciting to see OBJ catching touchdowns again, but we can do that and we can appreciate that without turning it into a ha-ha Baker type thing. It's cool. OBJ is catching touchdowns again. That's exciting. I love to see it. And I think Mayfield has honestly looked pretty good since OBJ left overall. And I'm not a huge Baker Mayfield guy, but I think he's done what he needed to do. And, that's basically all I have to say about that. I just wanted to address some of these Twitter feuds that I've been witnessing here over the last few days. Next up, I want to discuss the possibility of the Cavs and the Warriors returning to the finals. Now, I know this is a very, very early look at potential finals matchups, but the Cavs are currently the 4th seed in the East, and the Warriors are currently the 1st seed in the West. And I think it's more likely the Warriors make the finals than the Cavaliers. Like, I'm completely fine admitting that. But I think we need to recognize the possibility that maybe not this year, but in the next few years, we could see a Warriors Cavaliers finals rematch again, minus LeBron. On the Warriors side, they are the number one seed in the West with Klay Thompson still not back and James Wiseman still not back. Once those guys are added to the mix, you got to think they'll be even better. I think the Warriors have a very good shot at coming out of the West, which honestly looks weak overall this year. Now, the Cavs, it's just been a pleasant surprise that they're where they're at right now. And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves and start saying stuff like that. I only say that because I think it's kind of interesting if we got the Cavs and the Warriors in the finals again. And I really don't want to, jump the gun here on this and get way ahead of myself. I will just be happy if the Cavaliers make the playoffs, of course. But this team does look very, very good. I think in some ways they could really benefit from Colin Sexton. Wish that he didn't get injured. There's two sides of the coin. I think the offense flows a little better without him sometimes, just because his nature sometimes is attack, just himself. Man, the ball movement without Sexton has been fabulous. I gotta say, I've loved the ball movement we've seen from the Cavaliers. Completely unselfish, completely just pass wherever. The resurgence of Kevin Love has come about as a result. Ricky Rubio, phenomenal. He's played a huge role in that. And of course, Mobley. I think Jarrett Allen is going to be an Eastern All-Star. He should be. Darius Garland, you could make a case, but I don't see it. Even though the All-Star game is in Cleveland, I think the Cavs most likely get one guy in, and I think it's going to be Jarrett Allen. That would be my guess there. Even Isaac Okoro has looked really good the last few games, which is interesting because just last week there were trade rumors saying Karis LeVert to Cleveland, Jaylen Brown to Cleveland, names like that for like a wing player, and you would assume that Isaac would probably be involved in that deal, but it's looking like maybe not, as he has looked really good recently, and I'm very happy with what I've seen out of this Cavs team. I don't know if they'll be the 4 seed, where they're at right now, but their schedule has been like the toughest in the NBA up to this point. So the fact that they're holding down the 4 seed, given that, I love it. They play the Rockets tomorrow, hoping for a victory there. The Rockets have actually been really good, minus KPJ and Jalen Green. For whatever reason, banged up Rockets team went on that big, 7 or 8 game win streak. It was just snapped the other night finally, but Garrison Matthews going crazy. Brooks for them as well. I don't know. But I'm expecting the Cavaliers' victory against the Rockets. Anyway, all that just to say, we could possibly be looking at a new era of Warriors-Cavs in the finals. And being a Cavaliers supporter, I would love to see it. But I know maybe for a lot of NBA fans, they would not want to see that again. But I think it would be exciting. The Cavaliers, a much different team than they were when LeBron took them to the finals. I don't need to tell you that. But it's just team basketball now, and it's really fun to watch. The Warriors, pretty similar to what they were before. Haven't really changed that much. And got to think that Curry and Thompson and Draymond probably have a decent amount of good years, left to take more shots at the NBA Finals. So I, for one, would love to see an upstart Cavaliers team battle it out with the Warriors. Now, would the Cavs come out on top? Right now, I would say probably not, but it would be a lot of fun to watch. So that's just something else I wanted to discuss here and maybe put in people's heads to think about a little bit here is Cavs Warriors back to the finals. I don't know. We'll just have to see how the season unfolds. All right, that's all I have for you on the On the Road Sports Talk Show for today, December 14th, 2021. If you like the content, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. It really means a lot as I'm trying to grow this channel and make more videos for you. I will have the fantasy content as well coming out. I just wanted to take a little break from that for a second just to bring you some news stories here tonight. And yeah, that's all I have for you. So I look forward to bringing you another video. And until then, go Cavs.